it in your the other day.
Because
I knew you were gonna say something.
Chris, are you back on? Chris Miller?
I'm here. Thank you.
Dr. Bell, want to do a mic check before we start?
And do we have Denny?
Good morning, I mean, good afternoon.
Is Denny Blackburn?
This is probably.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
good.
Want to do a mic check, Dennis?
Can we get the other members of council?
Did you mic check Dennis already?
Andre's back there.
He's here. He's here.
Dennis, you want to just come off mute and say hello so we can make sure your sound is good in the room?
Dennis, can you do my check on real quick, Dennis?
Yep, I'm on.
Thanks, Ken.
Okay, everybody's in. We're ready to start our evening session. Update on 5 Point Crossing. It's Dennis Blackburn. And he's gonna be doing it virtually. Okay, we ready?
Okay. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dennis Blackburn. I'm with Woda Cooper Companies, and I'm Senior Vice President with Woda Cooper, and I'm based in Savannah. And Kenneth, are you going to be able to just flip the slides as we go? I'll just say flip. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. Do you mind flip? Just got the quick outline of the presentation I'd like to give you. Just one slide on our company itself, and then go into the actual site, the Tarboro Street and Rose Street site that we are now calling 5 Points Crossing, and then give you some basic data on what 5 Points Crossing will actually be, and then share with you the concept designs and the floor plans that we currently have at this moment. Go through the timeline with you, and then share with you just some pictures of some other developments to give you a feel of the type of finish that we'll actually have. Please flip. So Woda Cooper Companies, we were formed in 1990, just over 30 years ago. Privately owned by Jeff Woda and David Cooper, hence the name. We are privately owned, as I said, and headquartered in Columbus, Ohio. And I'm based in our Savannah office and look after our southeastern activities. The company has developed in over 15 states at the moment, working on our 16th, with 350 different projects, developments that we have actually done. And we actually have, out of those 350, we have only ever sold one property. So we are very much long-term owners. We go in and we actually, keep the property. We focus on affordable housing, workforce housing, and have been ranked, consistently in the top 15 on a national basis. Currently ranked 10th. We're fully integrated. In other words, we go from full development, management, construction management. At the same time, we actually manage over 13,500 different units. Okay, please flip. Just, obviously you all know where it is, 5 Points. If you just zoom in, next slide, please. That you can see that to the left, the 5 Points, hence the name. And please move in one more slide. There you can sort of see that the site is it's got this interesting watering can shape. The entrance will be off of Rose Street, and the property will be aligned along Tarboro Street. And we'll come to that when we look at the plans in a little while. Currently, it's just vacant land, as you know, just parking lots. Next slide. It's a relatively tight urban site, just over 1.3 acres. It is currently zoned B4, so it is zoned Central Business District, which allows for this type of development. And what we're going to put in there is a new 4-story building with elevator. 50 units, 28 ones, and 22 twos. Out of the 50, that we'll include 6 handicap ADA compliant units. 50 off-street parking places, which is in line for this type of area, this type of development. And it's a great location. I mean, all the amenities can be found within 1 mile. And we even have a covered bus stop, which is right opposite this property on the Edgecombe Community College side. Next slide. These 50 residential units, will be financed by the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency and also NCORE, the North Carolina Office for Recovery and Resilience. And it's the combination of the funding structure from these two organizations that's going to make this development possible. The income will be restricted the income is restricted for residents earning up to 60% of the AMI. And I just give you a little sort of projection on the rents. These do change, but if we were to close now and start leasing, it would be $500 for a 1-bedroom and $565 for a 2-bedroom. There would be recorded covenants on this property, which would restrict for the use of this property to affordable housing, and that is for at least 18 years. In reality, at the end of the term, obviously, as a company has been owned, been in the business for over 30 years, when we get to the end of our terms, we just continue. Very often, we would do a substantial rehabilitation and continue with the same concept. We don't flip any of our properties into market rates at the end of the term. I've mentioned before, we are fully integrated. Just want to mention, WODA construction and WODA management. So that also helps in the process. We're all under one banner, so we don't blame each other. We're all committed to make sure we get the development completed and done. And the current project has got a total development cost of $8.4 million. Next slide. The amenities on this for this development. We actually have we'll include a leasing office. We will have an on-site management person that would be there, as well as a service technician. There'd be a multi-family room and a fitness center, and I'll show you where they're actually going to be located in the property. We've got an interesting concept we're going to do in this particular development. There will also be a collective laundry room, but there are also washer and dryer hookups in each of the actual individual units. And as we do for all our developments in North Carolina, we have over 12 now, all either in operation or in construction. There's a tenant storage area of 16 square feet for each unit. Outside, there'll be a playground as well as a covered pavilion with tables and grills, and I'll show you on the site plan in a few minutes. The units themselves are very, they've got high efficiency HVAC, all Energy Star appliances, LVT flooring. I mean, it'll be a nice quality development. Next slide, please, Ken. Here's just where I mentioned that the site plan. We're going to actually have the building facing Tarboro Street is to the south on this picture, to the bottom of this picture. The building would actually absolutely front that Tarboro Street, and the access would come in off of Rose Street, and we'd have a sort of parking behind the building. I think that's going to give it a nice streetscape along Tarboro Street. It also means that we'll have two entrances, one right in the middle of the building, one on facing Tarboro Street and the other facing the parking lot. I mean, yeah, this is the floor plans. I didn't want to go through this, but I just wanted to explain to you that the center there'll be a center aisle. It's an enclosed building, which will make it, with an elevator. So it'll have a nice feel to it, entrances from both sides. Next slide, please. And this is just the third and the fourth floor. And if you'd like to go to the next slide, I sort of hone in on that top floor. And this is something actually very new for me, is normally on a building, on a development, we very often put the common amenities on the ground floor. Here, we're going to take advantage of the sort of the location of the building, and we're putting the sort of the multi-purpose room that can be used for all types of activities, including birthday parties, other anniversaries, or whatever people would like to use a multi-purpose room. It'll have a small kitchenette, TV, etc. in that facility. We're going to put the exercise, the multi-purpose room, and then we're going to have an outdoor covered patio on the top floor, on the 4th floor. And I think that's going to be looking towards the north, the sort of northeast, which I think will give some nice views over downtown Rocky Mount. Just wanted to highlight that because that is something which is quite new for me as well. Next slide. Those are the units themselves. I think that's probably in the package that you were given. So if you have any questions on that, don't hesitate after this call or even after this presentation to reach out to me with any questions you have on that. And then the next slide, please. Those are just the initial concept of elevations. You can see we're going with a real sort of modern urban downtown feel to it, but it has not yet been absolutely finalized as to what they're going to look like. So the next plan is going to give us the timeline, which I think is going to be important. We've had conversations with both NCHFA and NCOR, and they have given us the okay to start to move forward. They are still finalizing their actual funding committee, the intergovernmental agreement between the two of them. They are working on that, but we have already started to finalize the building plans and aim to submit for permitting at the it'll probably be May when we actually start submitting the plans for both the civil and the building plans for permitting. We've also, in parallel to that, not mentioned on this slide, we've already started the environmental review of this site. We're doing the actual NEPA review as we speak. So summer, we'll start construction. It has about 1 year of construction, maybe 12 to 13 months of construction. And then we will start the actual lease up a couple of months before we finish the construction. And I've put down there, basically a 1 month for a complete lease up. Traditionally, we are very successful in leasing up these properties. There's such a demand for the type of development that we are doing. So that was the sort of the time frame, which I think is important for everybody today to sort of see what it's going to happen. So it's going to be next fall when we hope to have a nice sort of grand opening, let's say, when we get to that stage. The next couple of slides, I just want to flip through. I know you've got probably lots on the agenda today. This is just a picture of a development we have just finished in Charlotte called Rivergate Green. This was a 72 multifamily like we're doing in Rocky Mount. This development had a little bit more site, so we're able to put the amenities to spread them out a little bit more than we do on this on the 5 Points Crossing. Next two pictures are just pictures of Rivergate Green. That's just an idea of the picture of the interiors. As I said, all the amenities will be, all the appliances will be Energy Star, and that floor, that's that LVT flooring, which we are now putting absolutely throughout the properties. It has a great success. It has a great look to it. Next slide. That's a typical example of the sort of the community room on the left. What we would have in there. That's where people can go in and spend some time. And the right is another typical picture of the laundry facility that we would have for our properties. We realize that some people like to have they used to use the central laundry facility. Other people like to have their own units actually in their unit themselves. Okay, next picture. This is another one in Greenville. It's even more recent. We've just finished that, and that's an example of that's actually 12 units that we've got in that particular building. Next slide. Again, just pictures of that development in Greenville. In total, it was 60 units. Next picture. Well, Ravenwood Crossing, I probably don't need to explain much there. This is a townhome configuration. Very, very different. It's and we're really thrilled with what with how occupied this is and what we're hearing. We're hearing very positive things. Next slide shows another picture of Ravenwood Crossing, as is the next one, I think. Okay, and I've got just like finish off another couple of pictures of different ones. This was in Savannah, called Sustainable Fellwood. This is the phase 3, which was for 100 units of senior housing. Next slide. Again, sort of part of the amenities. That's a typical fitness room that we would have. We always have window mirrors on one side, so we can all look at how good we're doing as we work out. Next slide, please. Okay. Harmony Green Pooler outside of Savannah. Just to show you an example of the diversity of the type of developments that can be done. This is a townhome development in Pooler, 50 units. Next slide, and just shows another picture of Harmony Green. And one more slide too. That shows you again the interior, and then again is showing you those LVT flooring. Next slide. This is a new construction in a historic zone, in a historic district of Madison, Georgia. So it has a little bit of a historic feel with a lot of brick on this particular one. Next slide. And then next slide. The purpose of showing these pictures is to show that we don't have a one size fits all. Every development will come in and have a feel for it, have a feel that sort of fits into the character with the surrounding buildings and that community, that neighborhood itself. Next slide, I think just shows the sort of the typical interior. That one there shows you also the games that people can actually use in one of these community rooms. Okay, Ken, I think this is the last property I just wanted to show. This is why I'm showing you this one. This is Malheur Point in East Point, Georgia, is because I think that this one is very typical of the sort of this is a 4-story downtown urban type of development. I think the feel of what we will go with in 5 Points will be very much sort of have this feel to it. Not exactly, but it'll have this type of feel. Next slide, I think this shows just one or two different ones of that. That's Malheur Point. This was, I think, had 64 units in this particular development. And I believe that is our last slide that shows again the interior of the community room. And of course, gladly respond to any questions people may have at this point.
Any question from the council at this point? Mr. Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Dennis, for the presentation. Will you all be using the same subcontractors that you use currently for the water cooler project that's at Ravenwood? Or because I know the last time that we had some conversations, you had a lot of out-of-town subcontractors, but recently constituents have let me know that that's been changed to local subcontractors to make a lot of the rehabs and problem solving be more convenient. So will you be utilizing some of those same local subcontractors for this project?
Yeah, that is a great point. I know we did talk about that following Fellwood. We will definitely have, what we often do is we would arrange for a work day where our RGC would come in and would then have an like a job fair and seek to have local people if they would like to work with us. And we'll also, of course, open it up to bidding from all vendors. And we will make a special effort to try and use as many as we can locally.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have one. My question is, once you start construction or before, you will let the council know which model that you're going to choose as far as the outside facade of the apartments that you're going to build? I know you pointed to the East Point, Georgia, with the more urban feel opposed to the townhouse appeal.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, I will definitely share that. Of course, the whole plans go into the city, but we'll make sure we'll highlight it, that we'll make sure the Madam City Manager is aware of which one we're submitting, and really, ask for your feedback on it. Huh?
Thank you.
Hopefully, Councilwoman Chris Miller.
Thank you. So you plan to be fully leased out August of 22, right? So when will you start accepting applications?
What we do is we start accepting applications about 4 months out, huh? And we usually then will provide a telephone number, because we won't actually have an office on the spot until just before the actual facility is going to open. We have a telephone number, and I will make sure that the city is aware of that telephone as soon as it's about to open. And then what goes in, it goes into an actual list. It's very important for us to treat everybody fairly on a first come, first serve. And then when we start the application process, then we go through the actual due diligence of each resident's application. First thing, of course, is we make sure that the income level is correct. And then we do check, we do a credit check background to make sure that nobody is in violation with any other housing locations elsewhere. And we also do a criminal check background as well.
Now, I assume there would be a rental agreement that would cover the behavior and standards you expected from the residents.
Yeah.
And your rental fees would include a built-in maintenance cost.
Yes, we would handle everything, all maintenance. We would handle, repairs on any of the appliances, etc. Any wear and tear of the actual property itself. The residents would pay for water, sewer, and electricity.
Thank you.
And if I may add, Councilwoman, that you're very right. We do have a formal lease agreement with each resident, and in that there's very much there's a standards of behavior of each resident that has, and if needed, it's not any violation of that. It can be very often one strike and you have to leave. If for any violation, then it's just not acceptable.
Depending, I assume, on the severity of the violation.
Depending on, yes, absolutely. Yes, it's in our interest to keep residents there for as long as they'd like to stay.
So hopefully that we could, you can talk to our minority contracting person at the city manager, and hopefully we do have a construction trade program that hopefully we can have some process of involving at some point. And I don't know if you looked into any of that, but hopefully we can do some of that work.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Are veterans included in those that would qualify, assuming they meet the income requirements?
Yes, Yeah, yes, ma'am. We actually, in our properties, we actually have an awful lot of veterans actually that do stay in our properties, that are our residents. We have a lot of residents. I've actually seen a little video that we did quite recently, just recognizing our veterans that are in our properties.
Thank you.
Thank you. No other questions? Dr. Valerie Vance. Yes.
Turning it to me now.
Yes.
So it's my understanding that I'm going to give a little bit of a summary of what I've been hearing, some themes, and then are you all going to have a discussion, or are we going to wrap up for today?
After you, after you give us some highlights on this one, and Dr. Angela give us some action points, and then we'll come back and wrap up.
Okay. So the first thing I would like to suggest for the council members is to look at there's been so much information shared in the last 3 days, much of which is so exciting that I'm aware of really wanting space to process it. And I want to encourage you also to do that. I also know that the downside of so much information is that it can be hard to prioritize. And so within all of this information you all have, I see that as a key next step. And I was reviewing the objectives and the goals of the strategic plan. And I wanted to invite you each to, as you're reflecting upon this retreat, to start to look there and to identify for you as an individual member, what are the most important elements of this? There were 5, and there were 5 objectives, and then there are 2 major goals. And my thought is that if you all could have a meeting of the mind on that, it would be very helpful to then going to what do we do and in what order. And I hear the strategic plan can become a very important document for both short-term. So I would say, look at the priorities, determine your priorities for the short term and for the longer term. And that would be a next step, is to have each of you take that self-focus guideline and apply it to what do I want to see happen and in what order. So that's one, and we can certainly support, you could get supported through facilitation in that, but I'd like each person to do that as homework. So the prioritizing with respect to all of this information from short to long term, there's no reason that you can't do it all. And as we know, it takes time. So that's my challenge, is that each of you take the time to say, what would I like to see us prioritize around these issues moving forward? The other connected to that, I think, is some of these initiatives are ongoing and are happening. So I want to reiterate, keep learning from what is working with what you're doing. From what I'm understanding, you have a lot of systems of accountability. So I would suggest that you look at what are the current systems of accountability that we have, and to recognize all the good work that you have done in that area, and also to then identify any gaps. The issue about accountability relates to the issue of trust. And so I think a third theme that I wanted to raise again is the importance of you all making space to really enhance your ability to trust each other in your work, even as you disagree. It's okay in the guidelines, it's okay to disagree, and we can learn to trust each other's motives. That it's not personal. This is not about the personal level, it's at the institutional level. Connected to that issue of trust is going to be, I think, for you as a council, continuing, and I know you have these conversations a lot, but continuing to really define what does equity mean. If 10 years from now, we want this to be a city where everyone feels, I'm reading this thing, feels safe, and there's sanitary housing, and there's adequate housing for each resident. if we're going to have that 10 years from now, we will have to understand how the historic legacy of racism and classism and other forms of oppression impacts the housing stock today. And you all have been talking about that. And I sense that there's a need to make sure that you all as a council are clear, because then you become the ambassadors for the community. And that leads to, as you all are clear, I think the education processes that you are discussing that have come up in several times, the need to educate the community or the need to educate the investors, all of that becomes part of the strategy. And that strategy needs to include helping folks understand that fair is not always equal, and that making up for historic inequities is appropriate. And let me say it that way, that is a positive thing to do. It begins to then create the possibility for health and wealth and wholeness for each citizen. So what does equity fully mean? And again, I want you to take with you that idea of the 4 levels. At the institutional and cultural level, there need to be policies and practices that create equity. At the personal and interpersonal level, I want to learn how to hold that without going into an either or. Either we're doing something for the whole community or we're doing something for part of the community. The whole community benefits as we correct historic inequities. So that comment. Then I think the next thing is building on this idea of creating a way to build in communication about your successes, about the successes of this retreat, about the successes of the work that's currently going on, about when you all land on your strategic plan, about what that is and your excitement about it. In some ways, you become the marketers of the new Rocky Mount that you want. You're the branders. So you want to feel in yourself, you want to feel committed to this strategic plan and committed to working it through, which means doing the things that I've said before. One little thing that I was thinking about is as the last speaker was presenting, which is an example of what I mean by when he said, I don't know if he's still here, but when he said that this plan that they have guarantees that fixed income rate for 18 years, and then he says, but we don't flip our properties. I thought, yeah, right. Right? That's my lack of trust, right? That's my lack of trust in that moment. And it speaks to the idea that you all can take the time you need to make sure that what you're planning continues to be sustainable over time. So that idea that came up yesterday too, the difference between into perpetuity versus 99 years versus 5 years. And is 18 years okay? That's fine, but just making sure that you're being explicit about what accountability means. Similarly, and you all were right on this, using local subcontractors is also another way to balance both economic development as well as to support job creation, economic development, as well as effective housing. So I think that is really important to also keep on top of. I think the last thing is, I want to just caution you about, I want to again say, as you reflect upon what your priorities are, will you also identify and really go through all the information you gather, identify what are the other things you need in order to feel comfortable at an information level. And do not, there's an analysis paralysis, where we can study something to overstudy. So I would say, pick the 2 or 3 questions that you have after you have reviewed. And then, as you all are saying, you need to act with some urgency on the short-term things. So we want to encourage you to identify what are low-hanging fruits from this plan that we can begin to implement after our meeting of the House, next meeting of the House. So I'm thinking about wanting you to have a sense of urgency as well as a long-term perspective. I also want to appreciate the commitment of the folks who are here not as council folks, but as concerned citizens of Rocky Mountain and your other various roles. Because again, I see the commitment from the community, and I think you will have allies among these folks to help market your message once you are clear about what it is. And that's a gift, to have folks from the city being willing to be with you and be your allies. So those are thoughts on those are thoughts. And any questions or comments on any of that?
Any questions or comments to Dr. Valerie Batts? If not so, Dr. Angie would come and share with us our action.
Thank you. In the essence of time, and because I know that minds are probably wandering, it's been a long week, I am not going to recap what I believe Dr. Val has made very clear to us verbally. I do have it in writing. I will just say a few things that resonated around the prioritization piece. I think that is absolutely critical as a action for you all to take, along with keeping the learning. I heard SWOTs, focusing on your strengths. You have a lot of strengths. And of course, there are weaknesses that align with that, as well as opportunities and threats. How can we build upon that is what we'll be sending to you, Madam City Manager, in our written report around the things that Dr. Val just talked about. That T word keeps coming up, trust. And aligned to the trust word is accountability. So there's the A word. And most importantly, I think it goes back to the P word, which is the prioritization with the focus on your strategic plan. You have a solid strategic plan. There is enough information in there for you to not get too caught up in the analysis paralysis, which can lose some of the time that you referenced, Councilman Knight, with some of the work that's already been done. There are some actions around making sure all council members receive some of that data that you have not seen yet that was referenced in the room. So we have captured those actions as well. When I think about strategic plans and or accountabilities and building that credibility, which is the trust piece, really we have to be focused on working the plan and planning the work. And it is definitely a fluid process that's ongoing. Dr. Val, I love your institutional, cultural, personal, interpersonal. It actually kind of reminds me of a SWOT because there's quads there and they all are integrated in terms of the forces, whether they're competing or aligned. Sustainability, perpetuity, and particularly explicit accountabilities, I think you can build upon. You clearly have those in place, and we're certainly not suggesting that there isn't any trust. We're not suggesting that there isn't any accountability. With the work you're doing, there's tremendous accountability and a lot of hard work that's happening within this organization, and really to see such an engaged working council aligned to its citizens is really a remarkable thing for you to close with. So with that said, I really would just like to thank you all on behalf of my dynamic duo partner, Dr. Val, who has done a wonderful job virtually. Please give her a round of applause when you think about the fact that she is not able to be here with us. And it was certainly my pleasure to serve as your co-facilitator. And with that said, I am turning it back to Mayor Pro Tem, and I believe City Manager is going to be making some remarks. Okay, he has his gavel.
All right. Come on, let's give our facilitators a celebrated hand. All right, thank you so much. All right, our city manager has some announcements she would like to make.
I think you should give yourselves a round of applause, all of you, for
Yes.
for your serious. Yes, nice work.
Thank you, and certainly I want to appreciate the council for your attention and focus and great feedback to myself and the staff. This is exactly what we were hoping to achieve, and believe me, you have caused our thinking to expand quite broadly, and we look forward to following up with you. I do want to share with you that we have received some information about grant awards that fall right in line with our discussions today. Once again, for next year, the urgent repair program, we've received notification we'll be receiving the same level of funding from the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency of $100,000 for our urgent repair program for next fiscal year. So that's certainly good news. And then secondly, we also received information from HUD of a $1.4 million award through our home program to assist us with the prevention of homelessness in the city. You might recall through the CARES Act, we did receive funding for this purpose. And so we're not exactly clear how it can be used, but our thought is if we can use it in the same manner that we used it before, which is to help people who were having problems with paying their rent and to avoid eviction. So we're going to do some additional research, as you would guess, with HUD funding. Sometimes we need the clarification as to exactly how those funds can be used. So Peter and his group will continue to do a little bit of research, but the good news is that we will be receiving quite a sum of money to help prevent homelessness in the community. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you, City Manager. Dr. Angie, if you would come up, Valerie Batts, we would get you your presentation, your gift to you. But I'd like to present this to Dr. Angie.
Thank you.
City Council, we thank you guys. Thank you so much. I'd like to announce that our meeting is adjourned.
Can you drive 55? I can drive 85.